Hey, everybody. We are back again. We are staying consistent. It is entertainment with I am Ler, and that is Deeds to my right, left.
Hello.
Left on the screen, right in real life. And today's a good episode. Today we've got a lot of stuff to kind of talk about. Some things that we've brought up in multiple episodes before that we're finally I'm ready. I'm on track. I have notes to go through. We both watched over the weekend.
All my notes are in.
I try, but that's how we end up on tangents for 3 hours. Because it's just like if I don't have it at least like a little bit, like just a word where I'm like, all right, go back to that, and we rant and we'll go for hours. But the
stuff is fresh though. That's the key.
Yes, especially
I was thinking about it beforehand. If I don't think about it before we start, then it becomes a little tangenty because I got to pull and remember, but everything's fresh. So,
but we both watched the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's basically a reboot. I'm pretty sure, kind of, is the way they kind of advertise that, but not directly.
Soft reboot / sequel.
Yeah, and we're gonna spend the first part of this reviewing that. My notes here include a kill count where I put team 1 and team 2 and then put check marks on a kill count. And we're gonna start at the very beginning of this movie right now. The first 12 minutes. The
first 12 minutes are utter insanity.
They really are, not only for the sheer fact that you can absolutely see Weasel's penis as they're doing their slow-mo walk. I noticed someone pointed that out like yesterday, and I went, huh? And I was like, oh my God, you can. But that's not what we're talking about. So you get your big introduction to Team 1. In this whole, Waller's sending out another team. You get a whole little Michael Rooker montage of everything he's going through. Now, James Gunn had announced when this movie came out, don't get attached to anybody. What happens next completely threw me for a loop and this is also why I have the kill count, so we can round this off. So team 1, which is what you're introduced to, we've got Harley Quinn, Rick Flag, Weasel, Javelin, Blackguard, Captain Boomerang, Mongol, TDK, and Savant. That is your first team going out.
Now, real quick, before we really get into it, Gunn saying that, and then Warner Brothers essentially coming out being like, "Yeah, we told him he can kill whoever he wants."
And James Gunn said, "Okay."
I was expecting it. I should have seen it coming when it started happening, but I thought it was going to be more along the course of the entire movie.
Not in the first 12 minutes.
And there one death in particular, which I was actually shocked.
We might be thinking the same thing here.
In this. We definitely are. Is Boomerang.
Yeah. Completely. I paused the movie and went, what? Like, especially when the camera pans and his arm is in the air just holding the boomerang. I'm going, no, he's getting up. That's why you're showing that. And they just, whoop,
nope,
right past it. Completely caught me off guard. Entirely.
Yeah, I was not. If he was going to go down, I thought it was going to be at least later.
Yes.
I didn't think he was going to be one that got killed off once this melee started. Like, I thought maybe he would have got like fucked up or something at most.
Mm-hmm.
But no, when it looked very obvious that like everybody on this beach, with the exception of 2 or 3,
Yeah, definitely.
technically
Technically 2
it's 2, but it's
for
3.
your 2
Wink.
hours of the movie.
Well, first off, so they get deployed on the mission after the Michael Rooker stuff.
Yep.
And they're dropping into the ocean to storm on this beach. And Weasel is the first one to go.
Which this
First,
is again.
First off, can you answer this? Who the fuck is this? Is Weasel a made up character? Is he an actual is this an actual DC villain? Who is he a villain for? Where the fuck? What book does he come from?
All right, I can actually I can pull that up right now because he is, and I think that's the whole thing too. Where I brought up that the video I saw yesterday is that you can absolutely see Weasel's dick flopping around, and that was a big point a lot of people made, was that they were interested to see what was going to happen with Weasel, because in the comics, Weasel wears clothes. And give me a second, I'm pulling it up now. So Weasel actually wears clothing. This is your comic book Weasel here. So I don't know any of his backstory, nor do I kind of want to at this point.
I like James Gunn's version of Weasel better.
Yeah,
because this Weasel looks like he's a threat, and James Gunn's Weasel, played by his brother Sean Gunn, right there, on the one picture.
Where are you looking?
He is not there. He's mental. What's the word I'm looking? He is mentally slow. He's deranged, for sure.
It looks the engine's running, but nobody's behind the wheel, kind of thing.
There we go. Yes,
it's exactly right with this picture right here. You can see it just dead and empty in the eyes. Not even dead in the eyes, just empty in the eyes. There.
Yep. And so yeah, I like James Gunn's version better. Just going off of that one comic book picture where he looks like he could be like a supervillain. But yeah, so Weasel's the first to go, and he lands in the water, and fucker can't swim.
So another fun thing that I saw, at 5 a.m. this morning, someone pointed out. So while Rick Flag is going through the whole spiel, before they jump off the helicopter, plane, whatever it was, Weasel is chattering and making noises and jumping up and down in his seat. And I didn't notice this the first time watching it. He is trying to let them know he cannot swim. He's like trying to let them know, like, this isn't going to go well. And everyone's just ignoring him because he's just chattering and not speaking English. And they were just like, let him go. That's cool.
But then why did he just run and jump?
Because I guess probably because they would have just blown him up. I guess he was kind of hoping for, which was exactly what happened next, was someone to hopefully just get him out of the water, which surprisingly, not what I expected.
Nobody does.
Yeah, except for Michael Rooker, which also caught me off guard because again, these are characters that I know nothing about. You know, like is very like zero about, with the exception of what little I know from is it David Ayers that did the first one? Whatever his characters going into this one, I know nothing about these characters, and I know James Gunn, which is what made Guardians of the Galaxy so good, is James Gunn likes to reach in, pull these D-list characters with A-list actors. I might add, D-list characters with A-list actors and throw them into a story. So I have zero intel, with the exception of Harley Quinn was in the animated series, and that's where she came from. And that's it. And her Joker relationship. That's all I really have on any of these characters, except for, and I will get to it, but I will say I've done research on King Shark, because even before this, thanks to Ron Funches, I have a very big love for King Shark.
You just reminded me how originally I wanted to start this. I wanted to start this going like, Disguise.
Fake mustache. Like you still look like a shark with a fake mustache. Which I will say, you know, before we get too in depth on King Shark, is probably my favorite Stallone role to date. Is King Shark. Absolutely favorite Stallone role to date. So as this movie progresses on, they're storming this beach in, I believe, somewhere in South America. I think maybe some made up city. I don't know.
So Weasel drops in.
Yes.
He can't swim. Nobody does anything until the very last second when Michael Rooker's Savant jumps in. And then I don't know why my dog is barking. Michael Rooker's Savant jumps in. The Weasel is dead. The Weasel is dead.
Yeah, real quick, they all get up. They're all ready to be stealth. They're on the shore. They're all behind rocks, and he just has to go. Weasel's dead, and everybody's sitting back at HQ. It just goes. The light goes out.
No, see, that's not true. People get pissed. People get pissed, and it's Weller, right?
Yes, Weller or Waller, something like that.
And this is one thing. So one of the rumors I heard was that Team A was sent in as a decoy,
and
I don't believe that, because if that was the case, then Weller would not care that Weasel that Weasel drowns. But when they cut back to her, she goes, "Shit." And regardless of how you want to take
that's a fair point. I actually forgot about that. I didn't even make note of that. That's a good point.
And that's because that's her asset. I think that before the events of what happens comes next, like the immediate what happens next, before that happens, I think her plan was to just have these two teams, obviously have them not know about each other, but I think her plan was for them to all meet and then go out with the mission. Obviously, if there were some casualties, I don't think she expected, because that's what I think everyone forgets, what happens next. And you can continue because you seem to have the detailed notes on it.
Yeah, I did. I sat there. I should have watched, which is how I missed details like Weller saying shit, because I remember it as you said it, but I didn't make a note of it because making notes of everything else. So as everybody jumps out, they're all on the shore, and then with a surprise, tables turning, Pete Davidson walks out into the open. His character is Blackguard again. I know nothing about him. Goes out, puts up his hands, and goes, "Hey, man, I'm the guy that called you. They're all here. Hey, everything's okay.
I got all of them. We even got a werewolf."
Yeah. And then, that's another great moment, too. Great moment of just cheap comedy, and I love every second of it. Him going like, "Is this like a fucking werewolf?" And then him freaking out on the plane.
Is this a dog?
I don't know breeds of dogs. Like, what? Like, such... and I don't say cheap comedy like it's a bad thing. It's very like it's directly meant to be like, all right, we're going to hit the low-hanging fruit of this. There's like, yo, is this a dog?
which that leads me to believe that they had no idea of what the final initial version of Weasel was going to look like when they filmed that. That leads me to believe. I mean, it works either way, but that honestly leads me to believe that maybe originally he was going to look like the couple of cartoon where like kind of more dog-like with a snout. But then James Gunn was like, "No, like this thing, he's gonna look ridiculous."
I'm pulling it up now because I've seen a lot of it in the last couple of days. A lot of the original concept art from this has been obviously because the movie is out, so it's kind of all coming out during interviews and everything. Because there wasn't initially, because especially with that fact of they probably didn't know what Weasel was going to look like. Also, with the fact that in the original concepts, and I don't know where to find this video, but it's floating around, and it wasn't a leak or anything. It's just something floating around with the release of the movie.
It's there.
Is initially, which this came out a day ago, is Deathstroke was supposed to be in the spot of Bloodsport. That was their original concept art of this. I don't see any concept art of Weasel Hopefully that comes out in the coming days where we can get a little bit more of what
the concept art the concept art you see is essentially of Team 2, which we will eventually get to, their arrival on the beach.
Yes.
Just instead of Idris Elba's character, it's Will Smith's character from the original. But as we all know, with the exception of Men in Black, Will Smith does not do sequels.
It's actually it's not Will Smith. It's Joe Manganiello. It's Deathstroke. So I'm gonna show you here because their helmets look very similar. Because Deadshot.
Deadshot. Sorry.
Deadshot is, but no, from the concept art, if you look at it real quick, it's easy to get them mixed up because they're both armor-clad, helmet-wearing dudes.
Oh, so it's supposed to be Manganiello. Oh, well, that bums me out. Why didn't Manganiello want to do it?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like I said, I know.
The only reason I'm arguing is because everything that I've heard, everyone has said that's supposed to be Will Smith. They haven't brought up. No one has brought up Joe Manganiello, and everyone has brought up that Will Smith doesn't do sequels, which is a fact, except for Men in Black.
Hold on.
I mean, you could be you could be completely right.
So here's your article. Let me see if they've actually got it in this page because I've seen the still from it of. Yeah, here we go. It's this one right here. Let's see what comes up here. Hold on, because it's bringing me to Twitter. So let me switch over to a different page. We're getting really professional with this today. I'm pulling up sources. We're looking at pictures. we're making like we're really getting the hang of this. So yeah, this will blow up a little bit more. So here's your initial shot of the concept art and everything. He's pointing at everything. I'm trying to be like weird and trying to see if I don't see Weasel, but this is the photo right here, which is what's coming up. And then if we scroll here, so that is Deathstroke. Oh wait, no, that might be that's Deathstroke. Yeah, that is your Joe Magnoli. I can never say his name. Yes, married to Sofia Vergara guy. That was his character from Batman versus Superman, and then he makes an appearance in the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So that seems like that was their initial plan, was to get him to lead up that Team 2, Team B, whatever, you know.
Now I'm shocked that like everyone has confused that with.
Oh, my favorite thing I'm seeing
with Deadshot.
My favorite thing I'm seeing is that they're getting Deadshot and Bloodsport mixed up. So I'm seeing like certain people reviewing on like TikTok and Instagram, and they're calling it Bloodshot and Deadsport. And I'm not fucking kidding. Where it's like, all right, man, like before you do, like, you know, no, just be prepared because do a couple takes. You know, it's we record as we go. This is live recording that we release later, but just, you know, it's like, do you really, you got 50,000 followers on your page here. Make sure you say the names right, because then no one's paying attention to the rest of it. But yes,
we're also halfway decent at course correcting ourselves almost instantaneously, if not right after the mistake is made. So,
so Pete Davidson goes, sells everybody out, and then gets shot through the face. Which the initial shot looks like it's just a normal sniper shot to the back of the head until shit hits the fan and they pan over his body and his whole half of face is just blown out. Like
gone.
It's destroyed. At that point,
as a Pete Davidson fan, I was upset. But that's fucked up. How you gonna sell out the Suicide Squad?
Right, and what leads me to curiosity is, and I don't think it's addressed. I may have to rewatch again to see if it is addressed. But what did he sell them out for? Just to get out? But he's got the bomb implanted in his head.
I can only assume that they, excuse me, I can only assume that they lied to him, saying that they could take the bomb out and that they would give him money if he sold out the squad.
Which we learned shortly after, because then right after he gets shot, everything fucking hits the fan and bodies start dropping. It is the opposite end of the Guardians 2 intro with Baby Groot dancing around. It is a montage to a classic song of just everybody getting murked.
Just death.
through this whole thing.
Everyone that Tyler named a few minutes ago when he named off this Team 1, all with the exception of 2 of them. Dead.
Yeah, let's see, remember. Actually, I can remember all of these. So I know while Rick Flag and Harley actually keep themselves down, because obviously not to jump out and, get themselves killed here. They're both I can't think of the fucking word because it's not hiding, but they're out of the way.
They're taking cover.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. They're taking cover as everything's going down. I think Javelin just gets shot a few times. I think he just catches a few bullets because it takes a little bit for him to die.
He has to have this whole moment where he passes his javelin to Harley.
Passes his javelin to Harley, which was
he goes,
such a
"You're the
moment.
only one who's worthy to." And what's the line?
I want to say, I'm going to paraphrase it, is "You're the only one worthy enough to handle my javelin," which also could come off as a dick joke, but also at the same time, one of my favorite things ever any movie does is, I have to tell you something. It's about your dead. And they did that in this movie where he's like, "You're the only one." He's like, "You need it for," or something like that, and then just dies. And Harley's going, "What? What do I need it for?"
I need it for what? And smacking him in the face, like, I need it for what?
And I love when any movie does that. It's a very old school trope, but I love when it gets done because it's one of my favorite things ever. Because it's like, that's how I want to go. I want to, on my deathbed, like, sit there and make up some bullshit. It's like, I do have money and it's buried beneath, and just go where everyone's going. Where he seems like the motherfucker that would have something hidden somewhere. Where did he hide it? Where could he have hid it? And I love when movies do that. So I know Mongol goes and tries to take out a helicopter. Is it Mongal? Is that what it is?
Mongal.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just Mongol.
Mongol is her father.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I
know that much.
You're very confident in that. For a second, I was like, is he being facetious? Where it's kind of like, no, don't call me Mr. Matthews. That's my father's name. Where I was like, is he being? And then like, but your confidence in that, where it was like, all right, so it's Mongal, which actually she tries to be heroic. She even calls out. She's like, "I got it, Flag," and he goes, "Don't." He's like, "Don't do that." In which this helicopter spirals out of control.
Yeah, she just runs, jumps, grabs on the legs of the helicopter. And this helicopter starts going out of control. Bullets are flying everywhere.
Which then comes to, obviously, then the helicopter goes down and takes out Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang, who was a big player in the first one. He's also, I want to say, absolutely, especially with the video game coming out, which we talked about in a previous episode with Samoa Joe doing the voice of King Shark in the video game, is that Captain Boomerang is in that. I believe he has been a staple through most of the Suicide Squad teams. I know in a lot of the cartoon movies, Captain Boomerang and Harley are two main Suicide Squad members in every orientation of this team. And they, in the first 12 minutes, they take him out. I hated it, but what I loved about it is that he went out with a smile on his fucking face. I fucking love that. He looks at Harley, you get that somber moment of she knows her friend's about to die, and he has a smile on his face as that plane or that helicopter crashes into the ground.
Into him.
And then amongst all the chaos, because then the Javelin scene shortly after this, Savant. Actually, no, TDK. We got to talk about TDK, which I believe was I have to look this up because I'm going off of an interview with Nathan Fillion. but I'm pretty sure TDK was actually created by James Gunn for this movie specifically.
He is, but he's based off of.
Is he? I'm pulling up a DC wiki right now to find out.
He's based off of a character with a worse name. That's which essentially it's the same power. Like he can rip off it. He can rip off.
He just detached. Which I believe. Let's see his full. Come on, stop scrolling. I believe his full thing is the Detachable Kid, TDK. Yep. In which, in the middle of all this, he tries to help. He detaches his arms instead of punching anybody, which I believe is fun. Which is funny too, as far as the sciences of things, is you need to have some force, and because his arms are detached, probably can't give as much force, despite the fact that he's a metahuman that can detach his arms. He just begins slapping soldiers, just like fighting with your siblings, slapping soldiers. And
stop it.
And and then he gets gets blown through with bullets. And then Savant is sitting and cowering. He's hiding and cowering this whole time.
No, first they shoot the shit out of his arms.
That's right, and then he just screams and falls to the ground.
And then they shoot the shit out of him.
Yep. And which again is another fun. It's just hilarious because shoot his arms, and it's why not shoot him first? They're like, we're gonna shoot his arms, even though it's not doing anything, and then we're gonna shoot him.
It was still effective. Effective.
A huge Nathan Fillion fan, and he's another one of those actors that since he has come into my life, which started with Firefly, I have not been disappointed with anything he has done, whether it be a voice role, a small role. If he's in it for 2 seconds, or if he's in it for 20 minutes, or the whole movie, whole show. I love Nathan Fillion, and I thought it was great. I completely enjoyed that, and especially the fact that obviously we know from everything that I believe your roll call when this all got announced, where they announced who was going to be in this movie, is that they announced that he was going to be the Detachable Kid, shortened to TDK. But in the movie, they ask him, they're like, what does TDK stand for? And he just I'm pretty sure he just goes, that's my name, or something like that. And they just blow past the.
It stands for me.
Yeah, he just completely ignores it, where nobody calls him the Detachable Kid. They just ignore it. And he's like, no, that's my name. That's it.
Which when they do the scene where it's like, all right, TDK, do your thing. And they call him the Detachable Kid, and then Harley goes, that's the Detachable Kid? It leads me to believe that Gunn had an idea that maybe one of these characters could get a show. It just didn't turn out to be the character that he was originally thinking, because that leads me to believe that he had the idea that he was going to do a prequel show or something with Detachable Kid, because they talk him up and but what who fuck is the Detachable Kid? This is his first appearance.
And then dead. And then as everything is on fire and everything is chaotic, Michael Rooker's Savant, and Michael Rooker's a badass. Michael Rooker's generally a badass in anything he's in. Especially big one, obviously, he's in Guardians, but another big one was him being Daryl's brother in The Walking Dead, which was which was awesome, which was the only reason I kind of watched that show for a while. And excuse me.
You look like Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Is he cool? Cool.
And
I'm Mary Poppins, yo.
He then turns and tries to get away. And Weller's like, fuck you.
No, I don't think he tries to get away. I think he understands exactly what he's doing in that moment.
Yeah, you think he was like, I'm gonna let myself get blown up here?
I mean, if you're not going to believe what's her name on her threat, and you actually think that you're going to get away when she's screaming in your ear, I'm going to blow your fucking head off.
Well, so what do you think there? You think instead he didn't want to die the way everybody else was dying out there? He wanted a quick, painless, just blow me up kind of thing, and that's why he was like, nah, I'm not doing this. I'm not going out like that. So he was like, go ahead, do it.
That's how I read it, because like he doesn't say anything in that moment. He doesn't say like, I gotta get out of here.
He just screams, right? He's just kind of screaming.
He's swimming in a panic, almost trying to like keep himself occupied, like almost as if like just do it already.
Like just waiting for it, because that's the benefit of the bombs too, is it's instant, and we saw that. It's instant, head explodes. No, there's no javelin, last words. Nobody's in flames and just cooking on the ground. It's just instant, done. Almost like that's the way he wanted to go out. That's a good way to look at that. I didn't think about that at all.
At least that's my interpretation. That's how I'm going with it, because it doesn't. I feel like in that regard, the only way to try to survive is to fight, and if you're going to run, you're not going to survive. That's not a fight or flight thing. That's because you're not going to survive because there's a bomb in your fucking head.
That I feel like too, because the movie starts with Rooker sitting in his outdoor time, and he kills the bird with the ball, and I feel like that because he even brings up to Weller when she shows up. He's like, I got 10 more minutes or something like that along those lines. Almost like he didn't want to be a part of this anyway. He just wanted to serve his time and just be left the fuck alone. And they threw him into this shit. Where I like the way you're looking at it, because that makes more sense to where he's like, I didn't want to do this to begin with. If you're gonna do it, just do it. Like get it done.
That's how I'm reading it, and unless James Gunn says differently, that's how I'm always going to interpret that scene.
And also, if you've made this far into our episode, spoilers. By the way, probably should have let off with that. Spoilers, because we're going through the movie, because we're treating this like a legit movie review today, and going through our impressions of this movie. And then at the end of this, we will give basically our scores. Our scores on how we felt about this movie, but that is the first 12 minutes, which is not a lot of time in the grand scheme of the whole movie. That is the first 12 minutes of the movie is just chaos and death. And then does it cut back to Task Force X headquarters here, or the green room, or does it immediately jump to Team 2? I don't remember.
No, it goes back to the green room, and then I believe from there, or to the HQ, and then I believe from there they're like, all right, time for Team 2, and then you as the audience is like, wait, what, Team 2? And then they start calling into Team 2,
which also
that's when we get their slight reveal, and then we get the flashback.
Yes, and I did leave out too. There's a quick little in between. Harley gets captured right after Javelin dies because she flat out says to the soldiers, hold on. He was trying to tell me something. I'm trying to figure out what. Just give me a second. And Rick Flag does get out injured. He does get into the forest injured. He's keeping in touch with Weller and letting her know what's going on, and gets into the forest here. And then, as Deeds brought up, we get back to HQ. They start dishing out the money too, because the Geek Squad was making bets on who was dying and who wasn't, and so they're dishing out the money at that moment too. Savages. And then it cuts to Team 2 here, which Team 2, I don't want to make more notes. Don't do that. Team 2 is Bloodsport, Peacemaker, King Shark, Ratcatcher 2, and Polka Dot Man, and thus begins our flashback into what makes Team 2 tick? Who is Team 2? And of course, we went back with which I believe they did with the first movie, with Will Smith's character is Bloodsport's got a daughter. She's on the opposite end. I feel like Will Smith's daughter was doing okay, just in and out of foster homes kind of thing. Bloodsport's daughter, he wants her to do better. He doesn't want her to be a bad human being. And
she stole a smartwatch.
Yes. And I think that's how he gets roped into it too, because I think I can't remember. This is only a week ago, and I can't believe my brain can't remember this. I'm pretty sure it's the same kind of thing. Doesn't want to be involved, and then she threatens to kill his daughter. Is the whole big thing. I can't remember if that's right away.
She threatens with jail time or whatever, and then she just ultimately just threatens with, like, I'll fucking kill her if I have to.
Oh, that's right.
Without actually saying it, she says it.
That's right. She does threaten her. She was like, I can make a phone call and she could end up here. and brings up exactly where he's at, which I believe the
and we don't have the best and sadly we don't have the best I forget what she says, but insinuating that she'll probably get killed here.
Which ropes him into it. I'm pretty sure, I feel like in the first one, which has been so long since I watched that, which was also at the time better, still not great, but one of the out of the DC movies was like I enjoyed that one the most, but still not good out of everything that was out at the time that I watched it. But I feel like in the first one with Will Smith's daughter, they roped him into this, and Will Smith was like, all right, then here's what I want out of it, no matter what happens to me. And this one, Weller just goes, no, I'll fuck your life up. Like, so you do this or I'll fuck your life up.
She learned from the first one.
And then we start going through the teammates here. Bloodsport gets introduced to our boy John Cena, Peacemaker, who is standing in the who's standing in the doorway of his cell, just at attention, waiting.
Look, I don't know what you're talking about. Weller goes up to an empty jail cell and starts talking to nobody.
That's right. There's nobody standing there. You're hearing a voice, but you don't know where it's coming from. It was absolutely insane. We don't know why it happened. There's a whole section of the movie that's just everybody talking to nobody. It's so weird. But which also brings another fun joke where, we have described Bloodsport as his, trained as a child to kill by his father, to do what he does. And she brings up to Bloodsport, your team, everybody has a very specific set of skills, and then gives the same exact description for Peacemaker, where Idris Elba flat out goes, what are you talking about? He does the same thing I do.
You just said we're all unique, and you just gave the same two responses.
And,
which I'm glad Idris went natural accent for this. Because I love Idris Elba's natural accent. It's so good.
and thus begins at this moment too our weird little tumultuous bromance between Bloodsport and Peacemaker, because Peacemaker's reaction is, yes, I can do what you do, but better. It's like I shoot smaller bullets that go through your bullet holes without touching the sides, which then begins this fun animosity that we get through the rest of the movie. And then I believe right after that is King Shark, where they go into a room and they just open the door and don't tell either of these guys anything, and their reaction is, what the fuck is that? And then brings in my boy.
And he's sitting there with a book, and it's upside down, and I can't remember the exact line, but it's along the lines of
me read good.
It's like, book read, me so smart.
And what also, if you didn't notice it, Deeds, I feel like you would have noticed it. For those who are Advent movie watchers and TV show watchers like we are, as everything, Weller is explaining who King Shark is, and that he, is rumored to be Nanawe, which I did see a video from a legitimate Pacific Islander where they did their research with DC, and this is kind of like with Thor and Loki, where they've at least done some research in the actual culture. That's exactly that. Is there's a whole story with Nanawe who got a taste for human flesh. He cursed with, he had a shark tattoo on his back, but would eat people. There's a whole thing. I would have to pull it up to actually give you a verbatim, but then did their research and then bringing into what is King Shark, who had different variations of how he looked through the comics. I know that at one point he was a hammerhead. At one point he was a little bit, I think he was a little bit more shark than humanoid, and then became a little bit more humanoid shark. They bounced back and forth with a lot of these. And we've got King Shark, who's basically a toddler at this point, maybe even younger than that. But right after, he sits there and he's, and he brings up the book, Peacemaker immediately goes, and again, there's other stuff happening, so you might miss it, but Peacemaker immediately goes, look at him. He thinks he could read. And then they go into the next room, and it's real quick. where I'm like, I'm so glad that he mentioned that, because like it's not even like he's laughing at him, but at the same time he's not being a dick about it. He's just like, look at this. He thinks he can read. Like, it's a very quick moment. And then brings us to I believe right after that is Ratcatcher 2, because I don't think we see Polka Dot Man until the actual briefing. I don't remember. Am I missing a Polka Dot Man section here, or do they go straight to Ratcatcher 2?
I believe they go straight to Ratcatcher 2. I could be wrong. I don't remember the exact.
Which then, then we meet Ratcatcher 2, and then the comic gets brought up. What happened? We couldn't get Ratcatcher 1. He's dead. And we just kind of blow past that, and that comes up, and that's important later in this movie. You meet Ratcatcher 2. She is asleep. Very adorable, adorable young lady with her little rat friend Sebastian, who is voiced by D. Bradley Baker, who has done many voice acting, just
voice acting legend.
And where the big one right now for me is the fact that D. Bradley Baker is the voice of every single clone in the Star Wars Clone Wars universe, with the exception of, I can never pronounce his name right either. I think it's Tamura Morrison is who played Jango Fett in the films. But as far as the video games for the shows, it is D. Bradley Baker. And he's also known for doing kind of weird animal voices too, where he voiced Appo and Momo in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which they don't have any voices. They don't speak at all. They just make noises, which is what he did for Sebastian.
He is also the voice of Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
No way! Is he really? This is where we get off. Still within the realm, but this is where we get off key here. You're kidding me! I didn't know that. I'm pulling up his IMDb right now. I have to see. I have to see what else he did that I don't know.
And there's one other that I'm pretty sure it's him, but I'm gonna wait for you to go through the IMDb and be like, no fucking way. Because I'm not as confident that that's the character he plays on this one show I'm thinking of. But I know for a fact I'm about 97% positive.
I'm waiting. It's playing the fucking. Let me get rid of that. Let's see if that
D. Bradley Baker is the voice of Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I'm waiting for it to load. It's giving me this huge Free Guy like trailer ad at the top of IMDb that's just taking up a lot of fucking time right now.
I wish that was Disney Premier Access, because I would really like to see Free Guy, but I don't feel safe going to a movie theater.
I really want to see it too, and I'm actually probably obviously because of the Suicide Squad. I think HBO Max only does like one movie at a time.
It's like well, their whole thing was that like all of their movie releases were going to be also on HBO Max. So it essentially breaks down to like one brand new movie a month.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple months where maybe there's two, but essentially like whatever their theatrical slate was, it's also getting released on HBO Max the same day.
Jesus Christ, Florida internet. I don't know. Like, our stream's running fine, and this page is not loading. All right, well, that's loading. We'll keep going, and we'll swing back to that. So then we get to, we meet Ratcatcher 2. She's an adorable young woman with her rat Sebastian. Which then also brings up Bloodsport's fear for rats that does get delved into later in the movie. But we just know at this point he fucking hates rats. He doesn't want to deal with it at all. Up, here we go. There we go. See, all I had to do was kind of keep talking about it. All right, scrolling down here. Yeah, D. Bradley Baker has done so much shit. Let's see. Yeah, he is Olmec, at least in the upcoming. I'm scrolling right now. I know it looks like definitely the announced it's like reboot, remake of Legends of the Hidden Temple.
The adult remake?
Is that what it is?
It's going to be adults. It's not going to be kids in the remake.
So it's cool. I'm okay with that. And that's the top one here. And then of course we've got Star Wars, where he's every single clone. multiple voices in American Dad, but also he is Klaus, the fish in American Dad. Multiple voices in SpongeBob.
American Dad was what I was thinking, but I was confusing which character he was, so I'm glad I didn't say that.
Yeah, it's multiple characters, but his recurring one is Klaus. I know he's done, which I'm getting to now. He's done a bunch of different voices for Family Guy, which is always random. He's just he's done so much stuff, and a lot of the times too, he's not just one character in any kind of show. He's always a different, like he's always multiple characters in any show he's in. Whether he's he may have a main character that he voices, and that's a specific voice, but otherwise they just kind of he keeps doing so much stuff through the whole thing, which is great. And again, he a lot of the times he'll do stuff as well where, like I brought up in Avatar, where he's it might be Appa, and not because it might be Commander Appa, which is in Star Wars, which is based on Appa. It's Appa and Momo. And also in Steven Universe, he does the voice of the lion, which again doesn't really speak, but he also does like actual animal voices, which is always great. Let's see. He does the clone troopers and everything in Star Wars, which is kind of multiple things here. All right, let me Legends and just kind of find on page here.
I mean, if he's the voice in the reboot, they're bringing back the original cast I'm pretty sure it's the same host. And
so it looks like in 2016 there was a Legends of the Hidden Temple TV movie, and he did the voice of Olmec. And it looks like, according to IMDb, and then the reboot, but it looks like the original voice was somebody different because it's not coming up on his IMDb page that I am looking at.
That's false.
Let me see. Legends of not Legends of the Fall. I don't want Legends of the Fall. That's weird because you are right, and I wasn't doubting you. It was just so weird because I just typed in like find in page and just typed in Legends, and it wasn't coming up with the original show. Like it just wasn't like as I was going. But I went to the actual original show's page, and he's cast on there.
Boo-boo, close the door.
That's so weird. That's IMDb being fucking weird.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because he was the announcer and Olmec on the original. That's so weird. Fucking IMDb being weird. But anyway, so then we get to our briefing where I believe we are introduced to Polka Dot Man, which also I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name either, but that actor is doing amazing things right now, which I guess I'll go back to IMDb. Where he was, he's doing great.
It's broken. There's no way to reattach it, attach it.
Everything he's doing right now. I know he was in Ant-Man.
You can just like
where he's one of Scott Lang's guys. And then we scroll down here.
It's broken.
No, it's not.
Let's see. Polka Dot Man.
It is though.
Oh, that's the top cast. Hold on. Let me scroll down here. I need the full all cast and crew. I want to make sure I get this dude's name right. It is god damn it. All right, hold on. David Malkian. I'm probably saying that absolutely wrong, but he's been in so much stuff. He's in the remake of Dune. He has been in multiple Batman things. I know he was on Gotham. I know I haven't watched Gotham. He's also, because we are going to get into some Kevin Smith stuff in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I did just watch for the first time last week as well. He is the nervous cop at the very beginning of the movie.
Yep.
He's like, the man's got no dick, just holding the gun shaking. Where Yeah, and he's doing a lot of stuff now. I know his kind of probably breakout role, not breakout role, but role where everybody started to recognize him was being in the first Ant-Man, and then of course in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he is terrified of the Baba Yaga. But he, it looks like his first like real role was being one of Joker's thugs in The Dark Knight, and then it just kind of goes up from there. And I'm not going to ever say his name again because I'm going to butcher it every time. But where he plays Polka Dot Man, who is just out of his mind, but they're going through the briefing, and we get the scene from the trailer. Anybody have any questions? Hand. and just like, yeah, and then just we're all gonna die, and Polka Dot Man hopes so. And he is the crazy one. He hopes everybody's gonna die. And that brings me in my notes.
Well, hang on.
Yes.
You're gonna gloss over the glorious line that they gave to John Cena?
Probably because I didn't write it down.
So they're talking about they're talking about Starro, the creature, and they're showing the starfish footage. And when they ask any questions, Cena raises his hand and goes, "Starfish is street term for butthole. Do you think there's any correlation?"
I completely forgot. As soon as you were like that, they're going on, they're talking about Project Starfish. I just went, oh no. That's why I just choked just now. Just like, I was like, I remember now.
Just straight faced. Just literally, he's sitting there in the room. He's taking his notes, and he goes, "Starfish is a street term for butthole. Do you think there's any correlation?" And Viola Davis just looks at John Cena with the hatred that like a mother has for a child that has been told like not to do something for the millionth time, and then they do it, and then they get hurt, and the mother's just staring there at them just like, you. No.
Which also, now that I'm actually getting into my actual notes after going through the cast, the characters on both teams, now I actually get it. So because I did write it down, I believe it's Waller, but whatever, we can keep saying Weller. I don't give a shit. But that's how I wrote it down.
Weller is the last name of the dude on the Blind Spot NBC show.
Oh,
so yeah, it's Waller.
And which the very first note involving her is just how fucking evil she is, using Bloodsport's daughter as leverage to get him to do this. And how much of so through this film, you've got multiple antagonists, but I feel like in my opinion, the big one that you're supposed to hate is Waller. She is the true villain of the entire film. And that right there, that whole thing, because even, I don't remember the actor's name, but he did the mocap for King Shark. He is he's one of the techie guys. Is just so taken he's taken aback, and he's like, what the actual fuck? Like, what, like, that's just, it's so fucked up. And of course, you don't want to go against your boss, and especially with her being this terrifying, evil bitch that she is. And just through the whole movie, I feel like that solidifies that, where if you're not paying attention, or even by the end of the movie, like I did, you're going, Waller was the real villain. Out of all the villains in this movie, including your protagonist villains, she was the actual big bad through the whole thing, with another story on top of it.
I would agree with that.
And then, of course, Idris Elba, yet to give me a bad performance. In anything he does, yet to give me a bad performance. That man did the voice of some animal in Zootopia and still crushed it. I think he was the water buffalo in Zootopia.
He's gonna be the voice of Knuckles.
Yes, and I can't wait to talk about that, because I'm actually really excited for Sonic 2. And then my notes kind of go Ratcatcher's adorable, and then King fucking Shark in bold and all capital letters in my notes here. But there were also a couple little, I know there, for DC fans, there were a couple side characters, and the one I noticed most was just one I actually know from the Batman kind of series is Sean Gunn, James Gunn's big thing, not only putting his brother into these, into his movies, but generally in recent days, we get a CGI Sean Gunn and then an actual character Sean Gunn, where during the scene where they're walking through the prison, kind of accumulating Team 2, of course, you see Pete Davidson, at one point, you see Weasel licking the glass. But Sean Gunn which I believe is also in the same scene, Weasel's licking the glass. Sean Gunn's on the other side as Calendar Man. And I think he just runs his mouth at Bloodsport. Which also, for those of you that don't know, and this is how badass Bloodsport is, which they have now made canon in the DC extended universe, which has been, it might be the same origin story in every comic, but again, not having comic book knowledge, I don't know. He is in jail for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bolt. This man said, "I'm done with this shit," and shot him with a kryptonite bullet. He was like, "We're not playing these fucking games anymore. We're ending issue 1. Done. We don't need any more of this."
And he's lucky he didn't kill Superman, because if he killed Superman, he'd be dead.
Oh yeah.
And then we don't have a movie.
But Idris Elba is just, my note is actually, he is top notch, is the way I describe him in everything, but especially in this movie, top notch, because you get the balance of comedic Idris Elba, but also the serious actor Idris Elba, and just kind of that in between. And I do love the fact that we have now had multiple actors. I know the big thing is obviously the war between Marvel fans and DC fans. And we now have not only James Gunn directing, writing, everything he does for Marvel movies and for now a DC movie, but also now the actors that we have that are in both sets of movies, including Michael Rooker, Idris Elba, Sean Gunn counts, because Sean Gunn definitely counts. He is the mocap for Rocket Raccoon, as well as, is it Craggle? Is that his name? Something like that. Guardians? It's something ridiculous, who likes eating his soup. Because he's Yondu's other hand guy. Stallone counts, because Stallone is the I can't remember his character's name, but in the comics he was the original Star-Lord, but whatever his character's name is in Guardians, and also doing the voice of King Shark. Also Taika.
Yeah.
Our boy Taika is
Taika
is also part of both universes. I love Sean Gunn's talent, and even I love watching the stills too, and seeing like the behind the scenes stuff where he's in the mocap suits and like he's either hunched over and he's crawling on the ground, or he's just walking like an idiot, and then to go in and read lines and do things like that too, which I don't know how mocap works, but I feel like the mocap stand-in for when they're filming also has the lines that the voice actor is going to do, so that way they have the interaction, I would assume, but that's just a guess. Yes. Right? So he's going to be able to act out the emotion with the other actors in the mocap suit, so that way they get their emotion on their side, and then they CGI in and have whoever's doing the voice come in. And
if you like say when we get introduced to Team B, and I feel like we got to get back to the review, because we were doing good for a while, and now we've gone on in so many tangents. But like, if you were to look at that without the CGI and whatnot, everyone would look the same pretty much. But then you would see the big guy from the HQ scenes in a gray suit with dots, where King Shark is.
Yes. So we're gonna kind of fast track this, because I really want to get into Marvel's What If and also Clerks 3 for this episode. So then we've got a lot of comedic back and forth. Of course, there's the scene from the trailer with the bag of dicks joke, and how Peacemaker would eat every dick on the beach for liberty, or is it for justice?
For peace.
For peace. That's what we do here.
He is so enamored with peace and wants peace around the world that he doesn't care how many men, women, and children he has to kill to get it. He would do whatever it takes to achieve peace. If someone told, and the line, if someone told him, you need to suck all the dicks on they turn the beach into dicks, and he needs to suck all the dicks on the beach, he would suck every one of them if it meant achieving world peace.
Which also, because we've talked about before, John Cena is great in his role as Peacemaker, which again, along with Idris Elba, going between being serious and driving the story along, and his comedic timing is great. All right, well, hold on. I talked about the dynamic between Peacemaker and Bloodsport. And then Polka Dot Man's big thing is his mommy issues. He has powers, but his real power is his mommy issues, because his mother experimented on him, which is how he has the polka dot powers. And if he doesn't expel them, I think he says every 2 hours, he like just gets
twice a day.
Yeah, he just gets like infected with the polka dots inside him. But these polka dots are gnarly. They rip through shit. They melt things as they go. But his big thing, and he brings up, is the fact that it's easy to kill because he just imagines everybody as his mother. Which then we get a CGI'd of the entire team all looking like Polka Dot Man's mother, staring at him, and he's just dead face, just like, ugh. Like one of those moments. And then we fast forward to then we get with the Resistance characters who have saved Rick Flag, and they're, which brings Rick Flag back into Team 2, continuing on with the mission.
Well, hey, real quick. So the team makes camp for the night, and they wake up the next morning. And when they go in to go to save Flag, Idris Elba and John Cena have this back and forth about like who can have the gnarlier kill. And like they keep one-upping each other, and then Cena like shoots this one guy in the head.
Oh, doesn't count, non-lethal.
Yeah, and Idris Elba's like, doesn't count, non-lethal, and John Cena's like exploding bullets, and then like 3 seconds later, the dude's head explodes, and then Idris Elba's like, no one likes to show off, and John Cena's like, unless what you're showing off is dope as fuck, and then Idris Elba turns around, he goes, shit. He's right.
Which again, that kind of like that like bromance kind of back and forth is so good between the two of them through all of this. King Shark and his nom-noms, obviously, because he tries to eat Ratcatcher too right before this when they make camp, and they're like, no, don't do that. And then we learn that King Shark's big thing is he really just wants to make friends, but he also has a taste for human flesh. He's just looking for friends.
Dude, that was like that was such a great little scene where like Ratcatcher 2 is like can see the humanity and the kindness in pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And looks at Nanawe and was just like, like, would you eat your friends? And he's like, no friends. And like they all kind of get a little sad. At least I got a little sad. And then she goes like, we'll be your friends. Like, will you eat us? And then he's like, no. And then like, there's another scene, just in case we don't get to it. It's like later on where they're on a bus and they're driving through the town.
Yeah. And he's looking out the window.
And like, you show clips of out the window and you see this one just like kind of like older couple just like kissing, and then they cut right back to King Shark, who's just obviously staring at the window, and like in that moment it's just like, this is like, he just wants a sense of belonging. He wants a sense of, he wants a person and people, but he wants
mm-hmm.
a connection. And it was I thought that little, because you could have done that clip and then you could have cut to somebody else. But the fact you cut to King Shark, you're showing like that was what he was looking at. And that is what he is pining after.
Which also with the how they did King Shark too, real quick, because I'm going to blow, because I've also already brought up a lot of my notes, so I'm actually going to be able to blow through everything, is the way they CGI'd King Shark. Is a lot of the cartoons always kind of, with the exception of, Ron Funchess's King Shark in the Harley Quinn cartoon, is they always give some emotion to King Shark's kind of eyes and face and everything. But in this movie, the way they CGI'd it, and someone else, I don't remember who you were, but you brought it up. Someone brought it up in a different review video. Is the fact that they took his dark eyes and bringing up the quote from Jaws saying that shark's eyes are black like a doll's eyes, and that's what they did for King Shark in this movie, where they're just black. There's no real emotion. It's all with his smile. It's all with his mouth. There's no real face. There's still your facial facial language. Yeah, and all of that, but there's nothing with his eyes, which they captured so well.
That and voice inflection.
Yes.
Sure.
And then as we move forward, obviously Harley has been captured at this point, and there's a whole montage of Harley with he's the president or the governor of wherever they're at, and then her sudden but inevitable betrayal. But a big, which her big thing was she was not gonna get in cahoots with this dude because he mentioned killing kids, and she said, "Nah, I can't be with anybody like that." Comparing obviously her relationship to Joker, and she says that if I was ever with anybody like this again, I would kill them, and she did. But a big thing I wanted to point out about this is I feel like everything, because I know a lot of people, including myself, which is not Margot Robbie and it's not Harley Quinn herself. It's just the central focus on Harley in a lot of things, like especially that first Suicide Squad movie. In this one, there is a balance between all of the characters where this is not centered around Harley through the whole movie, and actually wrote her well and gave her depth, which I feel like the other movies didn't do, which someone's going to come at me for it, and I don't care. This was the best written cinematic version of Harley, not in a cartoon form. This was the best one that I've seen written.
I would agree with that.
Written for Margot Robbie for this movie, and I loved the balance of that. And so then, we're blowing through things. Obviously, we've got the Thinker, who was one of the doctors. I can't remember his name. He was
Peter
one of the
Capaldi.
Thank you, Peter Capaldi. He
the
is
12th Doctor.
Yes, thank you. Because I was about to say I don't remember what number he was either, but I know he was one of the doctors. And he is the Thinker. He has been working on Project Starfish, which is at Jotunheim.
I will say that it does sadden me that I was really big into Doctor Who, pretty much all of Matt Smith's run, who is the 11th Doctor. And I do love Peter Capaldi, but it really saddens me that he became the Doctor around the same time that my viewership just tanked.
I was the same way.
I was glad I was able to spend a little bit of time with him again, just being a lavish dick. Yes, and his whole thing is obviously they found Starro. It was at the U.S. in space found Starro, brought him to U.S. in space, found Starro, brought him onto the fucking spaceship.
Yep, and then thought he was this cute, adorable little space starfish, and boy, were they wrong.
And then they bring him to they bring him to Earth, and they start running experiments on him.
Which leads to that's what Project Starfish is. That's what they're there to stop. The Thinker reveals that the U.S. government has been working with the other governments, all working on this, and the U.S. has gone, no, pull out. And that is what the mission of Task Force X, the Suicide Squad, is to do, is to delete all of this from existence and get the fuck out of there, so that way there's no way it leads back to the U.S. Shit happens. We've got the club scene, which I believe is meeting a contact, or that's when they find the Thinker, is at the bar, which we have actually a really nice moment between the team where they all have a drink. And also, it's funny, as much of a dick as John Cena's Peacemaker is supposed to be, a big thing in that scene is for him to go, you forgot about the rat, to make sure that the rat had a drink.
Yep.
And that's one of the big things, is it's got that balance where you almost want to hate him, because like you said, he will kill anybody in his way in the name of peace, just to keep the peace, but at the same time will go, excuse me, lady, the rat needs a drink. You forgot him too. Where it's do I hate him? Do I love him? I don't know what I'm supposed to feel.
Did you notice? Did you notice the Easter egg in this scene?
Are you talking about
The cameo.
the Palm Clemtief cameo who played Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy? Or are you talking about the standard James Gunn cameo of Lloyd Kaufman, who is in every single James Gunn film ever, who is also in that same scene? But yes, we have Mantis, who is one of the dancers up on the stage.
I was referring to both.
That was one of the big things I noticed. Of course, you see Lloyd Kaufman first because you see him a couple times in that scene. But as soon as they walk into the bar, he's standing right there. And then you see him again when they're all dancing, which was also another fun scene of them all dancing and trying to be human beings, despite the fact that they are villains that have done dastardly shit and are there to kill people, where it shows the kind of humanity and morality to these characters, that they're not just these meta-human, characters in a fictional world that are just superhumans beyond belief, but are still human beings, which this scene touches on very well. Also, Rick Flag and Joel Kinnaman does great. Another version compared to that first movie, very well written Rick Flag, and just absolutely awesome. And I want to point out also, because in my notes here as I'm going through, movie was visually stunning. Even though a lot of it was in the jungle and bleak, a lot of the colors and everything on the costumes for the characters, and even Starro and even some of the other scenes, visually great.
Did we bring up Milton?
Oh, that's next. That's what I have next. Milton was one of the resistance fighters who also happened to end up being basically their personal chauffeur and basically their guy behind the chair, where he had to get what they needed and it would meet back up with them. So then, as we figure out what Project Starfish is, the Thinker has revealed that the U.S. government is involved, and now everybody has a moral obligation. Oh, actually, I think at that point it's just Ratcatcher 2, Rick Flag, and then Peacemaker shows back up because they were putting the C4 in the building, and then Peacemaker shows up. Thinker reveals everything. And then it cuts back to 8 minutes earlier, where they're putting up the C4, which also brings another great scene between Peacemaker and King Shark, where they're putting the C4 up. And King Shark has made a Peacemaker C4.
He's got the C4 and he's showing it to Peacemaker's like, knock it off. And he goes, Peacemaker. And Peacemaker, he goes, that is very flattering. Thank you. That's ridiculous. That doesn't look like me. Put it in the wall.
Which then comes, obviously, and that leads to how Peacemaker, because the big thing they bring up is Peacemaker's like, why aren't you supposed to be putting up the C4? And he's like, I'm done already. The Thinker reveals all of his shit, and then we get our Peacemaker betrayal in the name of keeping peace, which is his whole goal through all of this, is that he has a mission to keep, and in releasing the information that the U.S. government was involved in Project Starfish and all the experience they did with Starro would cause chaos.
Well, Waller had him as a backup plan, essentially.
Yes. And also, right after that, we've got the Thinker's explosive death as everything kind of happens. And I say that literally, where he gets just ripped apart and explodes on everything.
Glorious.
And
if you're going to die in a superhero movie, I mean...
Because right here in the movie, it cuts back and forth between everybody, like what everybody's doing, which brings us back to Milton. Because while Peacemaker is explaining that basically he's not really, he's betraying, but not really betraying. He's just completing the mission. That's his whole thing. In the name of keeping the peace, that's what he's doing. When it cuts back, they've put everything up. They are leaving with I believe the detonator fuses. And then our boy Milton gets shot. A couple guys show up while they're in the office section of everything, which is also, if you don't know, an Office Space reference to Milton, which if you haven't seen Office Space, Milton,
shit, I didn't even realize that.
Yes, Milton, who is I can't remember his last name, but his first name is Steven. He does
fuck. He does the voice of Bill Dotrieve.
Yep, Bill Dotrieve. He also was in Dodgeball. He was Gordy in Dodgeball. He's another one. He's in so much shit.
I can't think of his last name, but every time I see him in something, I'm like, I always get excited, no matter what the character is or whatever. And that dude's got a range. He's not just the stapler guy.
Yes.
He's not just Bill Dauterive. Like, that dude's got a range. I've seen
Yes,
I've
he
seen
does.
him do some like serious, like not like super serious, but like no comedy whatsoever, and it's just like I buy it.
Let's see. While I'm pulling it up, I can keep talking too. So they're in the office. Milton gets killed. It is Polka Dot Man, Harley, and Bloodsport. I did skip before where they go to rescue Harley, and there's a cute little scene with them all being friends and everything like that.
They have a whole plan. Everyone, like, they devised this whole plan, and they're executing it, while just the scene before, we see Harley essentially save herself after killing the dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then she realized, like, she escapes and she sees them starting to do their thing, and they start executing their plan, and she comes around the corner and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Stephen Root is the guy's name.
There we go.
He played Milton in Office Space. And the references to this is in Office Space. Milton is like, he keeps getting his desk moved and eventually gets his desk put into the basement where he is then forgotten about. And all he wants is his red stapler back. And he burns the whole fucking office to the ground. But the reference in here is that they're in the office cubicle section. Milton gets killed. They are hiding in the cubicles, in which Polka Dot Man, who feels for humanity and has found a friend who has been helping them the whole time, says they killed Milton, which then brings me, which I had to make a gif of it and I'll send it to you, is Idris Elba. Not only that, is Idris Elba going, Milton was still with us, and right before that is literal visible confusion on his face. He's like, what? He's like, Milton was still with us, and they go back and forth and that's the reference, is that Milton was then forgotten about. He's like, what was he going to do? He's like, I don't know. He was helping us. He was like, I thought he stayed with the van. In which then Polka Dot Man accidentally triggers the fuses, blowing up the building, which is why, while Peacemaker and Rick Flag are talking back and forth in the basement, setting everything off too early, and Peacemaker then kills Rick Flag, which was an unexpected death, more unexpected than Captain Boomerang, for sure. I kind of expected Rick Flag to kind of survive all the way through.
There's a bunch of things in that scene that I really appreciate. One, I love how James Gunn, just to certify that that Flag is dead, does that what a lot of people would think is a random, but cuts that random CGI heart shot where you see the tile piece pierce his heart to show you, I just killed Flag.
Yep.
2, I love fucking Cena in that scene, because there's that one part where he's legitimately just like, don't make me do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's fighting with Flag, he's fighting with himself, and he literally, like, he goes to Flag like, I can't stop my convictions. Please don't make me do this. You're a hero. It's not going to end well for you. Like, without saying that last part, but he's like, don't make me do this. And like, the conviction that Cena gave me, like, I believe that he was fighting with himself. He was fighting with Flag, everything. Bought it hook, line, and sinker. James Gunn once again takes a professional wrestler and pulls the very, very best out of him.
Mm-hmm. So that, we've got Rick Flag's death. The Thinker dies somewhere in the mix of all of this when Starro is released. And then it brings us to the Suicide Squad versus Starro. Oh, and of course, King Shark seeing the little fishies and making new dumb friends.
Which was such a sweet scene. No, before that, where it looks like that they're all like, Starro escapes and they're just like, and they get the comms back up.
Oh, that's right.
And Weller's just like, mission's done. And then I think it's Ratcatcher. I think Ratcatcher's the first one. She's just like, all right, well, now I'm gonna go take on this fucking thing. Like, we're done.
So what? Because I got this one in notes too. She is the one that says this is fucked up, basically, which then convinces Idris Elba to go, "You're fucking right," and turns around and goes, "We can't let these people die. There are women and children and innocent people. We can't do that." Where a big point through the whole movie is Ratcatcher 2 bringing up to Idris Elba that there is good in him. Sebastian has, and a fiction for him. And, she's like, "There's good in you." And he's like, "No, there's not." And this is where that comes out, where he just basically goes, "Fuck." Turns around, and then the rest of the team then goes with him. And brings us to the Suicide Squad versus Starro the Conqueror.
Well, hang on. You're skipping another part. Waller's got her finger on the fucking trigger. And
That's
she's
right.
Screaming out, "I'll do it!"
Mm-hmm.
And right at like 0 second, one of the IT chicks fucking bashes Waller in the back of the head with something. And everyone's just like, "What did you do?"
It's her golf club, because she was preparing for a golf with a senator or something earlier in the movie. And she hits her with her own fucking golf club.
And everyone's like, to the one chick that she's like, what did you do? And she's just like, "What needed to be done?" And then I love how the team then all gets on comms like a home base reconnaissance team and starts giving everyone information. Like, Starro's over here, like, this will be this will be your route. It's like, you have this, and that at your disposal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the Suicide Squad versus Starro, which in the hands of any other director with this premise, even though it's only a premise that like James Gunn could come up with, any other director like this would have failed.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not even going with it, because this movie did not look the crappiness about the box office of this movie. Like, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. Don't get me wrong, but this movie is not a failure. This movie is fantastic.
Yes.
It would have made a metric fuck ton of money if the pandemic never happened. And in the hands of any other director, they would have totally just botched everything.
So to kind of just blow through the end of this, and then leading up to our score grading of this movie and quick little opinionated reviews here. They go against Starro. They team up together. We get basically a Hulk smash moment with Nanawe, where Monster is Nom Nom and he goes and attacks.
Oh, that was great. They finally get up to Starro. They get up to Starro, and Idris Elba goes, "Nanawe, Nom Noms," and he looks at this thing and he goes, "That Nom Nom? Yeah." And then just runs and starts trying to freaking eat Starro.
Which obviously the Suicide Squad prevails. Then they use their leverage to basically get freed. They say, "Nope, we're going to keep this hidden and you leave us alone." So they're off into the sunset, basically. Quick little Taika Waititi, his character's role was revealed seeing this movie, where he played Ratcatcher 1 and also did the voice of Starro. I have to go back and actually see where Starro speaks, because I know Starro speaks through everybody he is possessed with his mini Starros. But
maybe it's just the scream.
Maybe
because he does that one scream.
But I have to go back and watch that. We get a beautiful moment too, because the rats are what really kind of take down Starro, and we get a beautiful moment between Taika and the actress that plays, with the child version of Ratcatcher 2, explaining why rats, because they're so lowly and despised. If they have a purpose, so do the rest of us. And that is such a beautiful moment that really brings in the humility of this film.
That scene comes in a moment with a song that is titled Ratism, while this flood of rats cascades over Idris Elba's character, who is petrified of rats, obviously.
Yes.
While Ratcatcher 2 just like puts her arm around him, like, "It's okay, I got you," as she has her moment. Because if you're thinking like in my head, like, all right, yeah, Polka Dot Man's gonna be the one to save the day. He has the gnarly fucking dot thing, and then when he's like, "Go get him," and it sends the dots, and he burns off a chunk of Starro's leg, and then he's like, "I'm a superhero. I'm a mother."
Yeah, which was an honorable but hilarious death, because that was his mother tortured him and his siblings to make them superheroes and made him fucked up. And then he finally got his superhero moment and died. So obviously the Suicide Squad prevails. Waller is told basically to fuck off, and they will never release the information that the U.S. government was involved with Project Starfish, which also before this, you believe Peacemaker is dead, but alas, in the post-credits scene, he is not. But also we get the reveal that Weasel is still alive, coughs up the water, runs into the woods. And that's where we leave off with Weasel and Peace.
Sorry, not to do behind the scenes stuff, but I think I might have actually a little bit more time than I originally anticipated.
Beautiful. Because that's why I was kind of blowing through things, because I want to talk What If, because I know Clerks 3 is going to take up a lot of time. And so
I think
everything.
What If might take more time. Not that I don't love the idea of Clerks 3, and obviously we can get into that, but like, sorry. Continue.
I was letting you finish your thought too. So movie ends. We get our reveals that Peacemaker is still alive, which obviously is leading us into the Peacemaker series, which was done before this movie even aired. Before this was released.
That was another. Sorry. So now that we got a little bit more time, that was another great moment. So after Peacemaker, it's Peacemaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
After Peacemaker kills Flag, and then tries. That's when he chases after Ratcatcher, right?
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that. Yes.
He then gets into the showdown with Idris Elba, with Bloodsport, and from the callback of Cena being like, "I use smaller bullets that penetrate through your bullet holes without even touching the side."
Mm-hmm.
They both shoot at the same time. Their bullets head right towards each other, and Idris Elba is the one. Bloodsport's the one with smaller bullets that actually pierce through John Cena's bullet, splitting it apart. And then Bloodsport's bullet hits Cena in the neck.
Yes.
Which causes him to fall where you think he's dead until
the post-credit scene that reveals that Peacemaker is still alive.
Going to the last what are they going to do with Weasel? I'm so confused about Weasel.
What I'm hoping for is that we get like I'm not even hoping for a big part of the show, just like a quick little thing. Like Weasel just pops up randomly, like in like the Peacemaker show. Just not even like part, but just like, or he's just living in the jungle in whatever South American country they're in and just surviving.
See, in my head, I don't know how they would, but I want the Resistance fighters to be able to like capture him, but to show him compassion and be like, "Look, you shred our enemies, you can eat them, and like we'll take care of you. Just don't attack us." And almost so like, I don't know if we see it in Peacekeeper or next, but I just want to see a shot of like Weasel like hanging out with the mercenaries and then like shredding apart some like corrupt politicians.
Because
that's how the mercenaries
too is
how they keep peace on their island.
Weasel. I realized too in the beginning when obviously Weasel is the first to go. They have their screen with all the switches for the bombs, so that way Waller can hit it. When Michael Rooker says the Weasel is dead, his picture goes off, and basically it's like that switch gets turned off. So as far as Waller and all of her, government officials and everything involved with Task Force X, is they just assume that he's dead. So they're not even going to worry about him. Because as far as they know, he's dead and he's never coming back. So there's no reason to reactivate a bomb or be like, oh, unless something happens where he like eats kids, which I think he does. Or they brought up early in the movie, something weird that he does. Unless it's that, they're never going to sit there and be like, oh shit, Weasel's still alive. Let's turn this bomb back on. It's just, they just assume he's dead. And they're just they're never going to do anything about it.
Well, I also can't see. I feel like they might have to find a different route, or that only new people of the Suicide Squad are going to have the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't see, after what they did, I can't see like the rest of the team supporting, like, having the detonation bomb on Bloodsport, King Shark, Ratcatcher, even Harley.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you know, like, yeah, obvious, you know, like, yeah, maybe keep it in Harley and King Shark just in case. Because, yeah, if King Shark just starts going crazy and there's no talking to him at some point, then, yeah, you may just want to go. But, like, I can't see anyone in that team being like, whoa, we're putting the bomb back in Blood. No. Yeah. No, not at all.
So, and all in all, my overall for this movie, with a little bit of a background on this too, I absolutely enjoyed this movie. I will absolutely watch it again when it comes out. I will absolutely purchase the Blu-ray, everything like that. And I give this movie a 10 out of 10, but more so for the individualism in it. The story is, in my opinion, is just your cut and dry point A to point B story, with the overlying, like, here's the team, there's the bad guy, that's what they do. But it's more the individualism and the stories with the characters and the character development that completely come over the story, in my opinion, where I give it an absolute 10 out of 10, where James Gunn, I thought James Gunn did great, and I stand by my rating.
One of the YouTubers that I watch, Billy, turn that down a little bit, please. One of the YouTubers I watch, this guy John Campia, he's been a reporter of some kind for years. I can only assume that with the recent trend in the last couple of years, even before the pandemic, of people doing their own thing after leaving, like, I can only assume he was with a newspaper or some website and then eventually just struck out on his own because he has his own show. But whatever, that's besides the point. He did an interview with Kevin Feige years ago when Feige first announced James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy. And at that point, James Gunn really hadn't done something that you could see him pulling off the scope of a Marvel movie like that.
Right.
And the question that Campia asked Feige was, why James Gunn? And Kevin Feige said, because a great storyteller is a great storyteller. And that as long as someone is a great storyteller, they will be able to get. I can't. I'll count it later, boo boo. And that as long as you have a great storyteller, they will make sure that the great story gets told.
Yes.
And James Gunn is a great storyteller. You can't, I mean, you can, but you're wrong. Like, you can't debate it. You can, but you'd be wrong. Whatever this dude touches as of late it's gold.
That,
because
and
it's
with
the care that he takes it's the care that he takes with his cast, it's the care that he takes with his crew, it's the care that he takes with his story, it's the care that he takes while directing the movie, it's the care that he takes all across the board, which is why his films are top notch.
Which, with James Gunn, I have yet to be disappointed by anything he's put out. But a big thing also with Guardians, and then also Suicide Squad, which is something I absolutely love, is that it adds that, like, obviously these are fictional worlds coming out of the pages of comic books and everything that as kids people we read and we see on TV. And the big thing with James Gunn that he did with both Guardians and Suicide Squad was adding that human element for you to relate to his characters and the way he told the story, so that there is that humility to it instead of just being super metahumans in this fictional crazy world, which is something James Gunn does very well. Taika Waititi is another one where a lot of their films before jumping into the superhero world was these kind of their own obviously original storytellings. And also I know Taika did the fuck is that? It's something with the Wilder People, which is based on a novel, and
Isn't it like What We Do in the Shadows or something like that?
that's another one Taika did where he also starred in, which all and they were not like they still had your human element to them, but like using it's absolutely one of my favorite movies is James Gunn's Slither, which also featured Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, where an alien comes down to Earth, infects Michael Rooker, and then he becomes this giant monster obsessed with meat. And it's a sci-fi kind of thing. And I didn't see was it Brightburn is what it's called?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. I definitely want to watch it. If it's on HBO, I'll definitely watch it this weekend where I can talk more about it. I'm sure that had a little bit more human element to it because I believe that was like his story was telling like what if Superman went evil when he came to Earth. I believe is the general. It's not a good synopsis, but the general synopsis.
His whole idea, and I can only assume, is it was a grandiose idea after getting canned from Marvel. Boo boo, I'm in the middle of doing stuff. Okay, please stop. Now pick it up. It looked like he was setting up for like an evil, like what if Superman, and he was going to tell Billy, can you please stop? Come on.
Let me see how much
you don't need to, please. I'm doing a podcast. Fine, take this off. Go. Pick up your stuff. Mommy comes home and sees the mess. She's not gonna be happy.
Fine, you keep it.
And yeah, his idea was, I think, to like essentially take like the Justice League and just show like evil Superman, evil Aquaman, evil Flash, evil Wonder Woman. And I think that kind of just like, I think he had, like I said, it sounds very grandiose. I feel like that was his idea initially after getting shit canned from Marvel, before getting the Suicide Squad gig, and then before getting rehired by Marvel.
And like I said, I'm sure in that one, because obviously because I know it's basically this metahuman as a, or actually it's an alien dude as a teenager, basically. I'm sure that he puts some human element into the parents working with trying to make sure that their kid doesn't turn out evil, which I'm sure there's a lot of human element to. But also at the same time, Guardians and Suicide Squad, I think he knocked it out of the park with adding that humility and human element to everything. And Taika does it too. Taika does great. And Taika's on that list, like you quoted with Faihi, being an awesome storyteller is going to be an awesome storyteller, to the point where obviously, when Gunn got shit canned from Marvel, or from Disney rather, and then hired for Suicide Squad. But also, I believe it was just announced recently, I don't have a source, it might be wrong, that Taika has finished his Star Wars story, and he's really excited about what he has written for that, where again, you've got these two prime examples of they're just damn good storytellers. And they add such a human element to everything that they touch that it's going to be good. And that's why I brought up too, like I give this movie a 10 out of 10, but it's not for the overlying story. It's not from the point A to point B story that, it's not the hero's journey story that I give it a 10 out of 10 at. It's the way he wrote and did these characters to have you feel for the characters, to have you sit there. And besides the adorableness and innocence of King Shark, but also, like I said, with Peacemaker, is at first you're like, he's kind of a dick. Do I like him? Do I hate him? And even at the end, you're like, am I supposed to hate him? But really, he's like, because like you said, with the Rick Flag scene, he's like, don't make me do this. where he's fighting with himself too, where he wrote these awesome stories with these characters that you can feel for, as opposed to just a standard superhero movie, point A to point B. Hero shows up, hero goes through a trial, hero prevails, hero saves the day. There's a lot more to this than just your A to B. It's everything in between with these characters and the way it was written. That's why I give it a 10 out of 10, because I mean, like James Gunn knocked it out of the park.
No, I mean, I totally agree. And not that I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10. I feel like we have to come up with our own kind of rating system or something, because like, yeah, it's like, is it one of the best movie? Like, is it the greatest movie ever made and everything about it is like, you know, like a cinematic masterpiece? I mean, but you know, again, that's not for me to say, you know, but did I enjoy the hell out of this movie? Was I thoroughly entertained? Was the CGI top notch? Were the characters great? Was the story told? Was the story that I was being told? Like, was I invested? Absolutely. The actors, you know, I feel like everyone knocked it out of the park. Like, it was. I would definitely watch it again. I think so many people. I think this is a breakout performance for John Cena. I think this is a breakout performance for the chick who plays Ratcatcher.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a breakout performance for the dude who plays Polka Dot Man. I feel like the three of them are going to be in a lot more things down the line because of this movie. And yeah, it kind of just I feel like it all kind of just easily rests on James Gunn's shoulders. Like, he is the mastermind behind the concoction that was the Suicide Squad, which great storytellers are great storytellers.
That, and at least for me, with the way I kind of look at movies and everything, is all right. We all know, and I've talked about it 1,000 times. If you're watching on YouTube too, you can see behind me, I've got an Empire fucking flag. I've got my Stormtrooper helmet. Star Wars is my shit. You can't see my Clone Wars Funkos that are directly behind my head. It's my favorite. It doesn't matter which era of it. I love Star Wars. That's my jam. I have a favorite era, sure, but we're not talking about that. Is Star Wars is still also your hero's journey story. It's hero trial, where again, it's one of those things where that's the way I look at things now. Is it the most amazing fucking movie on the planet? No, of course not. Of course there's someone's going to make better, but in the way that I enjoy it, in the way that I see it, that's what
in the moment.
It's a 10 out of 10 movie. Every single one of those movies are a 10 out of 10 movie to me, because of the grand scheme of everything. But as far as like in movie making and like writing and everything, are they perfect? No, but I give it a 10 out of 10. Yeah, like
it's top fucking notch. Superhero bias aside, actor bias aside, creator bias aside, like, it's just a top notch flick.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for me, it's a 10 out of 10, because that's how I kind of look at things. You know,
it's got action, it's got suspense, it's got funnies, it's got crazy CGI monster. We got a fucking kaiju up in here.
And with that, and coming on stories, because I feel like, so I didn't hate What If, but I think you and I are going to have two kind of varying opinions on this first episode of What If, and we're jumping into What If. The What If series I believe aired yesterday. Was
Wednesday.
Was it Wednesday? Yes. What's today? Holy shit, it's Thursday? I thought it was Friday. Actually, I thought it was Saturday, which is so weird.
I gotta grab another drink and stuff.
So this What If aired yesterday, and obviously this is building upon what Loki has done with the multiverse of madness style of stories and everything that's coming out of this. And the first episode is the series is What If, which I believe in the comics is exactly what they're doing with the show. Is the What If comics were stories told by the Watcher, who, if you don't know who the Watcher is a big being that he just watches. He just watches. He cannot interfere. He will not interfere.
Watchers are beings that, if I'm not mistaken, they watch over a certain planet or a certain galaxy or something. And yeah, they observe, they don't interfere, they tell the stories. And Uatu is our Watcher, and he's telling us stories of alternate Earths.
Yes, which starts off with this first episode is, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? Which the story, basically, the general synopsis is Steve Rogers does not get the super soldier serum. Peggy Carter takes the super soldier serum instead. And I want to start with, we knew that actors from the films were going to come back and reprise roles in the What If series, but just how great this first episode is with their cast. We've obviously got, Haley Atwell comes back as Peggy Carter. We've got Stanley Tucci, who comes back as Dr. Abraham. Dominic Cooper as a young Howard Stark. Neil McDonough. We bring back Neil McDonough, which is great, as Dum Dum Dugan. Sebastian Stan as Bucky.
Which I'm interested that now young Howard, the guy because isn't that the guy who played Howard Stark on Agent Carter?
Yes, and he was Howard Stark in the Captain America: The First Avenger in that first.
He was in the first movie, right?
Yep.
Okay, because there's that weird continuity issue thing where he's Howard Stark for a certain point, but then after a certain point, it's just a de-aged. Joe
Slattery, I think I want to say his name is.
I think I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Which was great that they brought them back. You've got, obviously, Toby Jones comes back as Arnim Zola, but there are a couple other things I want to mention in here too. Is Jeffrey Wright, who is going to be playing Commissioner Gordon in the next Batman movie, which is the big one that, for those of you listening who don't know who he is, that's going to be the big one you're going to know. Also, another actor who has been in so much shit. It looks like he was in the Hunger Games movies too. He has been in Westworld. He is doing the voice of the Watcher through all of this, which is basically your narrator. But also, I wanted to bring up that we got Ross Marquand, I think is how you say his last name, who does a lot of voice acting, but he also did Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, because we didn't get back what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name?
He's the guy from Walking Dead.
Yes. And we also
we didn't get Hugo Weaving back.
Yes, Hugo Weaving, thank you. Where he comes back, but there are two names in here for this first episode. And obviously Jeremy Renner and Sam Jackson come back too in this first episode, but we got Bradley Whitford as I don't believe he was in the first Avenger. So we've got a new colonel in the 1940s U.S. Army as Colonel John Flynn, where we bring in Bradley Whitford because Tommy Lee Jones dies.
Yeah, they kill off Tommy Lee Jones's character real quick.
But also SNL alumni Daryl Hammond is in this episode, and he does. It says Nazi general, and what I'm believing is the Nazi general he does the voice for is when Captain Carter goes at one point to infiltrate whatever Nazi base they were going at. I think it's for that final battle in the episode. I think he is the general standing out front that goes, he's like, why would you send a Fräulein? And she was like, I'm going to show you that. Or he was the guy trying to get Red Skull to just fucking listen to Hitler and stop doing his dumb shit. He was one of the, because he doesn't have a name. He's just credited as Nazi general on IMDb. So I don't know exactly what character he was. So I enjoyed the episode. I don't think it's going to be my favorite once all of the episodes have aired. And it was more so, which didn't make it bad, but it was more so the Disney-fied kind of Bucky Barnes one-liners, kind of, as an example, where it was like, all right, like, come on, can we give him more than just like, holy fish on a table, Batman kind of lines, which is what he had, which were funny. I'm not saying they were bad. It was just like after a while, you're like, come on, what are we doing?
Well, you also you got to remember, like the man of what time he was. You know,
That's
it's the
true.
40s.
I will
He
say
hasn't been Winter Soldier-fied, and he
the
doesn't in this.
no, we completely in this universe, in this timeline that is broken off from the sacred timeline, he gets rescued, and what we do get from this episode are two key things that I really loved as far as the writing for it is obviously bringing back Neil McDonough as Dum Dum Dugan. I love that. But also when Captain Carter shows up to rescue that team, which obviously in the first Avengers Steve does, Neil McDonough's first line is like, "Oh, we had I didn't know there were dames in the army. When did that happen?" And then she just like punches a Nazi in the face, and he goes, "Now, I guess it happened now." And then they just kind of blow past it and keep going. But another big thing I love, and I don't have the exact quote, but I do remember this because I haven't seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies or the Hobbit movies, but I've read all the books.
Same. I haven't
And
read the books either.
obviously in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, they bring up there's the whole scene with Sam and Bucky where he's like, "Oh, how do you know who Gandalf is?" He's like, "I read The Hobbit when it came out." So they reference that where I can't remember exactly what Peggy says, but there's a chapter in The Hobbit where I believe it's like where eagles dare. And obviously that's when the birds show up to come get the hobbits and everything like that. If you're a Lord of the Rings person, that's when the birds show up. I believe that's the name of that chapter. Haley actually, Captain Carter says that when they go to zipline onto the train. She says whatever the exact title is for that section of The Hobbit, which I thought was a very nice callback. If you didn't know anything about The Hobbit, is it's coming back to The Hobbit, which was already referenced in the other show. And I love little things like that when they throw that into shows. And also we get the first Iron Man in this timeline where Steve Rogers has survived, but he's still skinny and he's not super soldiered up, where Howard makes him.
He's also paralyzed from the waist down.
Mm-hmm. And he uses the the Tesseract to power it too, and he builds him an Iron Man suit.
He uses the Tesseract to power what looks like Howard Stark's version of the Mach 1.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought that was great, and I loved that. That was really awesome for them to kind of to make this story even more interesting. It like I said, I don't think it's gonna be my favorite of the series, but I still enjoyed it. I'm probably more excited about Chadwick Boseman's last performance as basically if T'Challa is Star-Lord. 4? What about
he's
4?
He's in 4 episodes.
Oh, it's in 4 episodes. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
He appears in 4 episodes.
So I'm excited for that, and especially to see obviously more of our favorites come back from the films, but also to see who else we get cast as other characters in each episode. Well, obviously, like the example, like Bradley Whitford. I love Bradley Whitford. I think he's great from from Billy Madison to now. I love Bradley Whitford in anything he does. And so that was a big fun one for me. So I'm excited to see who else they get for the rest of the series.
What, kiddo? No, you can fix yourself. Stop. Put your legs down. That's how. I like this as a first episode, even though obviously it was going to get greenlit. But if you still think of this as like something that would have been a pilot episode or something that they would have had to have shown a network to be like, this is what we're thinking. Mm-hmm. It's a really good introduction to the concept.
Yes.
Also, the fact that it's MCU canon, we have to see Haley Atwell
as in the full Captain Carter
as Captain Carter in the MCU, right? Like that has to happen. Just get around like the height thing. How like that doesn't matter, but just like that has to happen, right?
you know, and especially with it being MCU canon, this is a theory and this is just an opinion and it might not be a good one, but we do have that was announced that there is the Untitled Chris Evans Captain America project that is supposed to happen too. I don't know if they're going to go anywhere with this into that. This could be like a whole thing where obviously
not that I don't doubt that, but like since that kind of hasn't like been like any like official announcement on Chris Evans being back, I kind of just all put that in quotes.
Yeah, there's plenty of things, and I feel like studios do this all the time, and this is also, I think, there's obviously there's always stuff that happens too where they'll announce things and then it just doesn't, whether it be actual behind the scenes stuff or writer problems or things like that, but also just the way kind of stories fit. Who knows if what they had planned will even fit for what they're doing anymore. But who knows? We'll see. But you're right though. They definitely they got to bring in Haley Atwell in the Captain Carter.
Also, just on like an even more behind the scenes front when it comes to all that stuff, like Disney is slowly imploding from the inside because Bob Iger did not choose correctly, and now he's regretting his decision, and everyone's like, you shouldn't have done this. And it like I've like whoever Iger chose to replace him, like they need to get rid of this guy even before he officially like takes over, because already just the little things that he has done. Sorry, not to get off on, but like they cut all ties. Disney has cut all ties with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, completely.
Completely. Like the Tower of Terror movie that she was supposed to be doing with him, like she's no longer attached to that. And like that's not going to make Feige happy. That's not going to make Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. want to fucking come back anytime soon. And like it's going to put a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths. And like I know that Bob Iger was pissed about how the situation with Scarlett Johansson was handled, because say what you will about Bob Iger, but like the man knew how to run that company, and the man, he knew what to do in the proper places, and he knew how to take care of. I mean, I don't want to say he took care of everybody, but he knew where the bread was buttered, and he knew just how they've handled the whole Scarlett Johansson situation is just not. It's not a good look, and it's not great.
Yeah,
and now especially since they cut all ties, it's just what are they doing?
Which it's could not circle back to James Gunn too. But we remember, things like this were coming out too. We're just using where he got canned, and Dave Bautista said, "Well, then I'm not coming back." Was things that like Bautista said because of the way they were, handling things at the time. Where Bautista was like, "All right, well then I'm not going to come back as Drax. That's fine." Like he was like, "That's bullshit." Like and then there was the whole "We Stand with James Gunn." Notice that went out too, signed by the cast from Guardians. We're like, no, and you get things like this. So like you said, because I didn't know any of that. I just actually pulled up the article and seeing that like I didn't even know Bob Iger was stepping down or stepped down and picked a replacement. I didn't even know that, and didn't know that they cut ties with her. And just for them to fuck up like that, at least they backtracked with James Gunn. At least they were like, like this is not a good look. Let's backtrack. Obviously,
because that was Iger.
Yeah, and that's I wanted to like boost up your point there. That's exactly what happened. Is Bob Iger was like, hold on, wait. Let's fix this. Let's smooth this over. Let's make sure this works. And whoever he picked was just like, nah, I'm not doing it that way. And Deeds, I just gotta grab a drink.
Oh, okay, man. Yeah, no, it's not a good look. That's not They screwed her over point blank with the sole fact that they didn't talk to her beforehand about switching the the release method of the Black Widow movie, and then they screwed her over by not restructuring the contract, and then they want to go out and like publicly say the money she made to try to get like the public to be like, oh, like to try to, oh, look at the rich actress complaining about the money she made. And it's like, no, that's not the point. There was a contract. She was expected X amount of dollars through a theatrical release. They changed the game on her, and they didn't change contracts accordingly, so they broke contract. Like, that's just, it's plain and simple. They can try to spin it, like I said before, they can try to spin it like when they publicly released how much they paid her, and it's just like trying to get the public, trying to be like, oh, look at the rich actress complaining about all the money she made, guys. And it's like, no, like, she was promised X amount through a theatrical release, and that total theatrical release didn't happen. So contracts should have been changed, and like shit.
Yeah, there should have been a contract restructure once things kind of got to a point where, all right, well, this is how we need to attack this. There should have been a contract restructure at that time.
Which is what Warner's did when they announced that every movie was going to be released on HBO Max without a premium, just for the regular, to try to grab, they restructured contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, like, look, we're sorry. This is what we're going to, like, here you go. And yeah, people like Christopher Nolan, like, complained or whatever, or is just like, oh, I don't want to do this and whatnot. But at the same time, like, if you're going to change it, you have to then in turn change the contracts.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, then you're in breach of contract.
Of course, like basically like your clients are going to be unhappy. Of course, and like it's 2021. It's it's not 1930 anymore, where it's like, all right, things have changed, so we need to change this. Otherwise, one of our top billing clients is going to, they're going to be pissed. So for them to just go, yeah, you know what, you're a fucking idiot. Nah, we're not doing. We're not going to fix this. We're not going to restructure this. It's just absurd.
No, I mean this is not the way to just, regardless of, the amount of money these people make, but this is, this is not how you treat your employees. This is not how you treat someone who has done a lot of work with your company, who has made a lot of money for your company. And then you're just going to turn around and just like, no. And what saddens me is that, like, I feel like Bob Iger did a lot of work on turning Disney into what it is now, to this powerhouse that is loved again by mostly everybody for all different reasons. And like, it became, like a company you can trust again. Not that it necessarily wasn't, but like, how it always just seemed like, Disney's a scam, like,
just the normal, every normal human being knows corporate bullshit, being a conglomerate kind of thing. Like,
whereas Bob Iger was like, yeah, no, we're not going to drop prices, but like, we're going to change the quality of everything that you've been getting the last however long. And like, we're going to make that, we're going to make the money that you're spending worth it. And that's what he's done with everything that he's done to this point. Sorry, I'm trying to crack my neck.
And it's funny because it touches base on the same thing where when it comes to like the music scene and everything, right? I remember, I like to bring this up. It's one of my favorite things I've watched. It's a Frank Zappa interview where he has talked about where in the record industry and in the record labels, it's originally record labels had, your fat cat sitting behind a desk smoking a cigar, taking chances just to see what made money, and if it didn't make money, they would get rid of it. To then getting these young guys that are on the street saying, here's what's cool, coming in and then basically kind of shutting doors for other things, where at least the fat cats were taking chances because they wanted to make sure it made money. May not have been Bob Iger's only intentions, but at least Iger's intentions, like, part of it was like, all right, well, for us to kind of keep making money the way we make money, here's what we need to do for our employees to make sure that they stay happy. And then was everything changed and Bob Iger stepping down, this new person's going, no, whether it be for whatever fucking reason, no, this isn't how we're going to do things. And then jumping into, basically again, cutting off an employee who is a top grossing employee is just not smart.
No, not in the least. And I mean, look, you can think whatever you want because, like, the character of Black Widow is dead. But like I said, like, she had other projects in the pipeline with Disney, and obviously, like, she is a star that it has drawing power. It's not a good look, and it brings Disney, and Disney starts having the taste in their mouth that they had before Bob Iger took over, when it was fucking what's his name, Mike Eisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the tail end of his run, like Disney didn't have the best reputation with people on a multitude of things, and it looks they're going right back there, and that's not a good look for anybody.
No, and it's the same thing with, like, us normies and our normal people jobs. It's the same thing with everybody, not to get too political about the world, but it's the same concept of all of us getting sick and tired of people sitting around on top of us, making us do all the work to make their businesses run, to then not appreciate us. And that this is just on a grander scale. It doesn't matter how much money she makes. This is her job, and she is an employee that is a part of the business that makes it run. She may not be the only thing that makes it run, but she's a part of it. She's a cog in the wheel to keep things going, where not only is this not a good look, but of course, like, you're going to, I know a couple other actresses have come out. I know Emily Blunt with Jungle Cruise came out when this came out, and she was like, I'm going to restructure mine too. Like, you gotta, you can't, like, if you're going to do it this way, here's how it needs to go, because that's how I should be reciprocated or compensated, rather. Probably both, reciprocated and compensated. And so it's the same thing where, of course, like, you did this to the one, you're going to piss off the rest of your employees, which is going to make running your business extremely difficult. And not to end this on a kind of on a dark note, talking about the corporate conglomerates, but I want to thank you guys for checking out this episode. We did not get to Clerks 3 today, but we will get to it for next week's episode. So stay tuned and come back to us. Again, if you don't know, we have our own channel on YouTube. We have our own channel on podcasting. I've actually broken it down where if you search This Is Noise Media on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, it will bring up all three podcasts underneath the This Is Noise umbrella, which also on the This Is Noise section, because uploading all of our episodes before that to this channel is going to be absolute hell, and I don't have the capabilities to do that. So all of our previous episodes are there on the This Is Noise podcast channel. And of course, we've got this is our episode 3, basically our soft reboot on this channel.
This is our the Suicide Squad.
That's exactly what this is. With our new intro, we're trying to keep things a little bit more professional. So again, thank you guys for listening. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, look down below us. Go to teespring.com/thisisnoise, and then you can go to the store. There is the This Is Entertainment shirt, which features our cartoon faces on it, and there is now a hoodie with the same thing on it, which features the faces. Yes, the Deeds is pointing at in the corners here on top of us. If you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening, it's teespring.com/thisisnoise. I believe it's actually teespring.com/thisisentertainment, which is where you can get that shirt, but I will put the link in the description of the video and of the show. So please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe. If you'd like to get some merch, get some merch. We appreciate that. It keeps the shows running to the top quality that they can be. with all of your support, but just listening is cool too. And again, next episode's just, I think next episode's going to be very just Kevin Smith Clerks heavy, because I gotta, we gotta talk Clerks 3, and I gotta talk about the fact that I just recently last week watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, because it was on Amazon, so I was able to sit down and watch that, and Kevin Smith's stand-up special, the one that he had the heart attack at. I finally watched that for the first time. So next episode's going to be very View Askew, Kevin Smith heavy for the entire episode. I think we're just going to stick with that next episode, and that's what we're going to talk about. But again, I can't stress it enough. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We appreciate you. It's seriously, it means a lot, because we love doing this, and we love talking about all the fun things that we love talking about. But thank you guys again. Goodbye. We love you. And Deeds, are you ready for the outro?
Do it to it!